Hey, what's going on, guys? NoZoupForYou here, and I need your help. I am vexed right now. I am utterly perplexed, so I'm going to pose a question to you all. I'm going to give my opinion on something, and then I'm going to ask you if I'm going crazy, if I'm in the wrong, or just what your thoughts are, because this is something that has become a very hot topic as of late, and I don't know why. It's something that I thought was not a big deal to begin with, but apparently a lot of other people think that it is a big deal. And if you've seen the title of this video, you already know what it's pertaining to, and that's the AP shell mechanics when a battleship fires at a destroyer. So in years past, going back all the way to the closed beta, and as far as I can remember, if you're in a battleship firing AP and a destroyer comes up on you, you can absolutely wreck it. And that just has to do with how the penetration works on destroyers, and ultimately, it hurts destroyers even more if they're slightly angled, or a little more than slightly angled. But the bottom line is, if they're coming up on you and you're using AP, you can absolutely blap them. I've done it numerous times, especially on Montana and high tiers. It seems like it's always in the Montana just because you've got a lot of guns and they fire decently. And when these destroyers come up, these shells do bad things to destroyers. So, I never really thought much about it. I think traditional wisdom says that if you're in a destroyer, a battleship should be shooting HE at you. Because you're a destroyer, you don't have a citadel, you shouldn't be taking damage from AP, yada yada yada. Well, I've never felt that way, really. I've always felt that as a destroyer, if you break concealment within the wheelhouse of a battleship, and that battleship has AP loaded, you deserve to get blapped. That's just my thought. And this is coming from someone who plays destroyers a lot. I play battleships a lot. Honestly, those three classes, battleships, cruisers, and destroyers, I split my time between the three of them pretty much equally. Maybe a little more in battleships, but not so much that I consider myself a battleship main. I am really a main of all three classes, and notice again that I didn't mention CVs because I think I've spent maybe 0.005% of my time playing in CVs. I'm just not good at them, and I am perfectly fine admitting that. However, back to the issue at hand. I can probably count on one hand the amount of times that I've been in a situation where a battleship has just absolutely wrecked me with AP. Actually, I can't even remember the last time it's happened to me. I mean, I know it probably has. You know, you play enough rounds, you play thousands of rounds in any ship, and I'm sure that it's happened, but it's been so long that I just cannot remember it happening to me. And I guess it's because of that that I just don't think it's a big deal. Now, I've done it to other destroyers in my battleship, but in my opinion, those destroyers messed up. They made a mistake. They decided to get too close. They decided to charge me. They decided to do something that they probably shouldn't have, and we'll just chalk it up to driver error. And if I'm in a destroyer and I try sneaking up on a battleship and I try dev striking them from 8 kilometers out, 6 kilometers out with my torpedoes, and I'm caught broadside, and a battleship manages to land 9 to 12 shells worth of AP on me, you know what? I expect to be completely and utterly demolished, and I have no problem with it. But that's me. And apparently I'm not the entire community. Because I've been told by other individuals that this is a very bad thing. That in a not large, but a large enough to warrant attention amount of incidences, this is really screwing over destroyers. And personally, I just haven't seen it. And maybe I'm playing destroyers correctly, I don't know. And I'm not going to go as far to say that. I just want to know what your thoughts are, because I don't understand this logic that a 14, 15, 16, or even 18-inch AP shell should not utterly wreck a destroyer. And yes, I know this is not a historical game. I know it's not. It's an arcade game. But it's funny because we keep drawing these lines on history and comfort mechanics in places that we feel they should be. Battleships have them in one place, destroyers have them in another, and apparently this is the flavor of the week right now, because destroyers feel that in those few instances where they do break concealment and get wrecked by a battleship 6 kilometers away, they feel that, well, they're using AP and those shells should have passed right through me. Well, yeah, they probably should pass right through you, but they should also leave a gaping 4-foot hole in every single place they punch through, and in all honesty, you should probably be flooding from these shells. And that's a completely different mechanic right there that I think was in the game at one point, and it was an absolutely miserable mechanic back during testing. So we don't want that back, but with that being said, I'm just going to lay it out there. I'm fine with the way things currently are. I am fine that if a battleship is using AP and doesn't have the time to switch to HE because I have snuck up on him, and I am unwise enough to break my concealment and mess up, I have no problem with him being able to fire a full salvo at me if I'm broadside to him and dev strike me. I have no problem with that. I don't see that as a flaw in mechanics, and I don't see it as a safety net or some way to coddle battleships either, especially if a battleship has the cojones to go into cap. If a battleship has the intestinal fortitude to push into a cap where a destroyer might be, he needs help. He's going to need that help. And if he challenges a destroyer head on and that destroyer can't get his torps off like he should, and that battleship's able to get his rounds off at a broadside or even a slightly angled destroyer, with whether it be AP or not, I think he deserves to wreck that destroyer. And again, these are my thoughts. These are my feelings. And apparently, not everybody shares these feelings. Shocking, I know. I mean, can you imagine that not everybody agrees with something or even a mechanic? But this is where I want your opinion. This is where I want to bring you in. You destroyer mains out there and you battleship mains out there. What do you think about the mechanic and the way it currently is? Do you feel that if you've got AP loaded up and a destroyer just all of a sudden pops up 6 kilometers away and breaks concealment, do you feel that if you land an absorbent amount of AP shells on them, you should be able to absolutely wreck them? Or are you fine with those shells just passing through and maybe doing a fraction of the damage that they would have done or currently do? Destroyers, for that matter. What do you think? Are you in the same boat as me where you feel that if you make a mistake, you need to own up to it and that dev strike's on you? Because that's the way I feel. That is the absolute way that I feel. Or do you feel that AP right now is kind of unfair? Do you feel that since you are just a tin can, especially if you're angling to try and get away, even if a battleship lands 8 to 12 rounds of AP on you, do you feel that you don't deserve to get dev struck? You deserve to be able to get out of there to fight another day or launch your torps and dev strike that battleship in return. See, this is the thing that I'm not understanding right here. It's like, how do we want it? And really, is this the fight that we want right now? Have we just kind of forgotten about the problems we have with radar? And I know that those are going to get fixed, but destroyers, of all the issues you face right now, is this really the biggest? Are you really in a situation where you're going up against battleships all the time and you're in a situation where you're getting shot at like this? I mean, WASD hacks, really? I mean, you're fast, you're nimble, you've got smoke, you've got a lot of defensive measures that you can use against these slow, silly battleships that can only reload every 30 seconds. I mean, really, I'm still in the camp that if I get wrecked by a battleship, I deserved it. I screwed up. I screwed up big time. And I've got no problem with that. I just don't. But that's me as a destroyer. And I know that not everybody agrees with that. So I want you in the comments to tell me what you feel, because I want Wargaming to see this also before anything too crazy is implemented, and it might be too late. I don't know. It just might be too late. But I think that this is something that the community is really, really split on. I don't think it's black and white right now. I think some people just don't know about this and this change coming and just don't care. I think some people feel strongly about it, and they want to see AP on battleships toned down a little bit. And I think there's even some destroyer captains out there that are like me, and they're like, you know what? I screwed up. It's my fault. Those shells are huge. I deserve to sink. Anyhow, I want to know what you all think. And I'm not trying to persuade you that my view is right on this, because I don't know if it is. I really don't. I don't know what the right answer is to this. This is just something that has perplexed me and is kind of a novelty, in my opinion, because to me, I just don't think it was ever really that big of a deal. But apparently it is now. So, guys, let me know what you think. I am very interested, and this has kind of intrigued me just because, like I said, I thought it was always a non-starter. But, be that as it may, I want to hear from you. Anyhow, guys, thanks for watching. Hoping you are having a phenomenal week, and I will catch you all later. Zoop out.
Torpedoes to port. Engine boost activated.